world.
Mm.
Bringing it in.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Okie dokie Lokies. Let's see how many people's we get. Tweets have been holy Toledos. They're already here. Okay.
Oh my. I
All
gotta
right.
host you here.
Dear friends, Compliment Cap, Arden, Darchus. What ho, friends? Come in, take a seat. Rhymes with moose. Come in. What ho, friends? Come on in. You all know the drill. I'll introduce you all proper once you're all sat down. Go get yourself a cup of tea. Dash
I like that mug.
Oh, I love this mug. This was a little one of those like arts and crafts gifts from a friend.
Oh, these are the best kind.
And on the bottom it says "not really," which I think is adorable. I should inform the world that we are doing a thing with a thing. Nope, that is my title. Right. As I said, you all know the drill. Come on in, grab yourself a cuppa, get seated. I'll introduce you to our lovely guests from Ska Studios in a little bit. So yeah. In the preamble, we were just talking about Pinstripe yesterday, and how it was really cool as a group that we all played through the game and then got to talk about its campaign to launch, like talk about the realities of it. So that was cool.
And I hadn't heard of Pinstripe.
You aren't the first person, which is a little
Yeah.
bit...
I haven't either, and that's strange because, you know, when you're working in games, you typically hear about games more than, you know, your standard person would.
Very. I was quite surprised. It was my buddy Thor that mentioned it to me because I'm sorry, my lot had to hear this story like 8 times. It was me ranting about Rain World and how very little of the press coverage did any of the individuals go past the starting area. And I have been a grumpy butt about that for most of the year. That's probably going to continue.
That's fine. I actually haven't played RimWorld either. It's like a Dwarf Fortress kind of game, isn't it?
Well,
or is that doing it like a huge injustice by saying that? I don't want to offend.
No offense dropped. What's interesting about it is that visually it looks more like one of those like light, fluffy indie platformers, but it's way more hardcore. Oh no, Arden says it's Rain World, not Rim World. Rim World's very good.
Rain
yeah.
World.
I know a friend who got super into Rim World and it ruined his life, but yeah, Rain World.
Okay, yeah, I actually haven't played either.
I don't advise RimWorld if you need to get stuff done.
Rain World looks amazing.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, I've seen Rain World, and it does look beautiful.
What's interesting about it is that it goes for kind of like an ecology simulation element rather than necessarily just a standard platformer. So there's a real... It's a challenging game. If you finish it, is entirely worth it, but you've got to get there.
Gotcha.
And I most wholeheartedly recommend it. It's... Yeah. In terms of like environmental storytelling and emergent narrative, it's the hot diggity dang. But I was a very grumpy butt because when I played through it, I was like, it was one of those experiences that has stayed with me. I'm still talking about it now. And then I went back and looked at the reviews, and none of them reflected the experience that I'd had. Like none of them even touched on it, and it struck me. No one who reviewed this game in the public space got that far.
Strange.
Yeah. So yes. So who's come and joined us while Will's been ranting? Beodora, Jack Gulch, my good buddy Tarl, Aspects. What ho, friends! Come on in. You all know the drill. Go get yourself a seat. And I will introduce you to my lovely, lovely guests in about 4 or 5 minutes. So now there'll just be miscellaneous voices. It could be anyone.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Anyone.
Your cousin Todd from Canada.
Oh, feckin' Todd. Just ease off, Todd, all right?
Yeah, I know. Don't get me started on Todd. Oh, that's me. I'm Todd. I'm Todd in this scenario. Ugh.
I'm Todd, and so's my wife.
Oh man, I made a kind of like a creepy fungus druid in D&D, and I decided that part of his backstory is that there's one other spore druid that my druid knows, and his name is Todd, and I can't stand Todd. I was going on about how he's the real spore druid, and I'm just an imposter, and he's also a purist, it's just Todd.
Also, it looks like the wonderful individual who you saw playing Guacamelee earlier, Echo, has just joined us. They have raided a party over. So yeah, we're bringing everyone together, yo.
Nice.
Hello, Echo, the space hippie.
Indeed. I actually, sadly, I didn't get a chance to introduce either of you to Echo at PAX because you were like 2 or 3 conversations deep with a lot of individuals. So I was like, all right, I just need to get in, say hi, be like, please come on my show, and then.
Oh, PAX is insane. PAX is madness.
Yes, PAX.
Yeah.
It's hard to do anything at PAX except be overwhelmed.
It's funny because it's like sometimes, we just can't. Like everyone's trying to talk to us at once, and then like a half hour will go by where it's just very lonely and quiet, except for the blaring audio of freaking Brawlhalla next to us. Oh my god! Did you notice were they in fine form when you were there? Because that was
they were shoutcasting up a storm.
Oh my gosh!
That was all hype.
All weekend.
I've been on both sides of that. So you have, my very first PAX that I worked, I was the epitome of the fresh-faced community manager. Like, I was unending amounts of enthusiasm and keen for 4 days. It was the first year they started doing the Encore Day on the Monday. And, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Guess who shouted Chest of Whimsy for 4 days?
You were that guy.
I was that guy, and sometimes that happens, and that's sometimes a thing, but I'm sorry. So, lordy. Oh yeah, no, we're good. Sorry, I thought we were having a teeny tiny problem with technical things, but we're good. So to those that have just joined us, Dr. P, Chrono Fire, Lemony Fresh Punk. Oh,
Lemony Fresh Punk.
Is Lemony Fresh one of yours?
He comes to our channel.
Oh, what a lovely person. Well, Lemony Fresh, it is a pleasure to make your acquaintance. Shell Dragon. Oh, I wonder who that could be.
That's Michelle.
I mean, I don't know. Who's that?
I did not realise it until I read it out loud. That was one of those. Right, so you've all got a couple more minutes before we do proper introductions and kick off. So, go grab yourselves beverages and snacks. It's going to be a day. It's going to be a whole day. Because while we're doing the at least the interview beginning of this little day, I'm just bringing up the Ska Studios site so I can show people some of the titles you'll made in the past. Because I need to put my hand in the air and say I didn't realise it was yourself that I made a game with zombies in it.
Oh yeah,
that's fun.
That's me singing in that song, in fact.
Feck. And
it's all right to not know that.
That makes me feel better. The same with zombies and pterodactyls.
Yeah, that's our studio is it's just the two of us, and we're quite old now. We turned 11 this year.
Oh,
we've been doing this for a while.
So Ska Studios is over a decade.
Yeah. Got a legacy. So we don't really, it's not like we're not like as well known as like it's not like an Edmund McMillan kind of thing, but there's it's always neat when something happens and someone's like, oh, you did that, oh, you did this, because that's what we're working toward.
Yeah.
Kind of recognition.
And
someday.
I mean, congratulations on out-surviving Lionhead. So there you go.
Oh yeah, that's a
thing.
Means a lot to me.
Story to that kind of.
Oh yes.
Do you want to hear this, or should I wait until it's funny because now that Peter Molyneux is not really in the games industry, I don't really have to worry about ramifications of telling this story.
You know what? Go for the story, and then I'll introduce you proper, because I think that's the best way to kick off this day, yo. Go for it.
Okay, this is gonna involve a Peter Molyneux accent, because I can't do it otherwise.
Please.
All right, so
Oh boy.
yeah. So in 2008, I was demoing Dishwasher Dead Samurai for Microsoft at GDC, and they actually had me out on the keynote, which was a really a crazy moment, because I mean, I was just like, it was my intro into the games industry. Everything was new and weird, and so in the green room, outside of where we'd give the keynote, Peter Molyneux was there, and I'm about halfway done with this game. I'm about to release it on Xbox Live Arcade the next year, and it was kind of like, before then I was not in the games industry. This would be my vessel into the games industry, and it was just super exciting. And I'm about halfway done with the game, showing it at the keynote. And Peter Molyneux's back there, and he's like, "So now that you're at GDC and you have this great opportunity, what are you going to do?" And I'm like, "Oh, I've got to finish the game. I'm gonna, finish the game, release it. Hopefully it does well." And he's just like, "No, because you see, in a couple of months, no one will remember who you are. No one, that this is your one big opportunity right here." And I'm like, "Well, what do you suggest I do instead of finishing this game that's my golden ticket into the industry?" And he's like, "Find a small independent studio, get a job there. That's what you should do." And I'm like, I'm thinking like, wait, small independent, like what is small? Does that mean, is that like is Lionhead small? Like I just didn't know what he meant. So I was like, oh, maybe he's like doing a Willy Wonka kind of thing. Maybe he's about to be like, "And you should come work for me." But so I was like, "Oh, you mean like Lionhead?" And he's just like, "No." And just, and like that kind of the conversation kind of stalled out from there. It was basically him telling me, "Don't finish your game, your dream chance of entering the games industry. Don't do that. Just find kind of some sort of entry level whatever. Just do that instead." Why? Oh, just do that. And in retrospect, I think it was he was kind of saying there are some sort of universal skill sets that you need to learn, and I have kind of gradually learned them in a way, but it was just it was like forever. I'm like making games, and just like, well, I mean with Dishwasher Dead Samurai, I spent like a whole year finishing it and going like, was he right? Should I have given up? And so every time he'd be in the news, especially when things weren't going well for him, I would just be like, "Oh, Peter.
Should have found yourself a nice independent studio."
Yes, how the tables have turned, Peter.
The day Peter Molyneux told Todd to give up on his dreams.
He was wrong.
Oh, man.
But Todd, what if you'd found what was in the cube?
Well, then you'd really be set. Then you'd be a game developer for real.
Oh, man. Full disclaimer, my name's not Todd. just for anyone listening in.
That was a callback.
Indeed. But that leads into a lovely segue. Ladies, gentlemen, one and all persuasions, it is my esteemed honour to be joined by the entirety of Ska Studios. Would you lovely folks kindly introduce yourselves to our wonderful audience?
Ooh. You go first.
Oh, man, after your story, how can I match that? Anyway, hello, I'm Michelle Silva of Ska Studios, not Todd.
Is there a Todd in the audience?
Do we have a Todd? Is there a Todd at the back?
I don't want to sound like I've got a weird problem with Todds, because that...
I mean, we all know it's Chads that are the problem.
Oh, yeah, obviously.
Okay. Me and Echo the other day literally did Chad Said What in a sporting goods store, and we got 2 looks. And I'm still proud of this.
Huh. Down with Chads. Chads and Todds.
Chads and Todds. But if you're not a Chad and you're not a Todd, who are you, good sir?
Oh, you cut out for me. I didn't catch.
Oh, I do apologise. If you are not a Chad and you are not a Todd, then who are you, good sir?
I am James, and I'm the other half of Ska Studios. It's James and Michelle. We're the whole studio. We're married. It seems like it's working out all right.
Michelle and James make video games.
Yeah. Seems like it's going all right. What is it? It's 6 years now, right? Michelle?
Math. Well, I started working with James like in an unofficial capacity in late 2010, and then officially starting in January 2011. So 7, right? 7 years.
But we've been married 6 years.
Married 6, yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I mean, it's not something I want to dwell on because there are so many stories that I want to dig into, and there's so much of your work that I want to show off. But yeah, it's very heartwarming. Not just that Ska Studios has been functioning and survived for over a decade, but also that you two work as a badass power couple. Like, that's really rad.
Yeah,
That's a
it-
pretty cool description.
yeah, no, thank you. No, yeah, it works. I mean, that's people always ask, like, how does it work? And it just, I think, kind of the most general answer is we just sort of delegate a bunch, or not delegate, compartmentalize, or
kind of separate things out a bit, like work on different things at different times, and that works out. Like, we have times where we get together and brainstorm stuff, but the actual work tends to be more separated. So we kind of go off on our own little worlds and make things and then put them together at the end.
yeah, just kind of head down and just, I don't know. I'm working on stuff right now. Just a lot of the work is just assets, drawing things, arranging things, moving things around. So it feels like there's just a million things to draw and arrange and move around right now. So.
Well, I mean, while we're discussing this point, you were saying that you kind of you divvy up the work. So how does that work? What are your disciplines of you both? For those that have never got the chance to meet your lovely selves.
Let's see. Well, so Michelle does art and she does businessy stuff and kind of production stuff, I guess. And then I used to just make the whole games all by myself, so I can, that's just kind of what I do, is just all the stuff it takes to make the whole game. And then there's a lot of like art asset kind of things where Michelle can just start, churning away at them. And then, but otherwise, in terms of like business and like packs, just a lot of, we've been doing like a lot of like outsourcing stuff lately, like the Switch port, the Vita port. Michelle's been handling all, and now I'm just talking for Michelle, so I'll shut up.
Yeah, I in college I got my degree in fine arts and just ended up doing a minor in business, since I was, I don't know, I wanted some kind of a backup just in case, and I didn't know if I would ever really use it, but it ended up being nice to have and have at least a little bit of schooling in that regard. Although, like, a lot of what we do is just self-taught. Like, there isn't really a school that teaches you how to be an indie game developer and running the business part of it too much. I mean, there's DigiPen and stuff like for game development, but I don't know, like what we do, we just kind of have to figure out as we go and talk to other developers and see how they do it and just figure it out as we go.
That's super cool. So we have a lot of cool people, and actually far faster than I've been able to say hello to everybody. So I'm gonna a general what ho friends. Come on in if you've got any questions. Shea Dragon is Michelle, or you can @ Viking Blonde so that I don't miss it. But please feel free to throw questions throughout the day. But first off, let's get into the nuts and bolts of this, because if you've not heard of Ska Studios, then you've no doubtly seen the Salt and Sanctuary because it's badass. But there are a lot of titles that have been little touchstones of kind of the industry since, 2009 was your first commercial. Did you do any work before Dishwasher? Anything in the kind of the... Because one of the things that I always noticed was that the Dishwasher was essentially like all the Madness games on Newgrounds, but good.
Oh, it's funny. I remember the Madness games. In Madness, it was more of a flash. It was videos first, and then there came the games. And I think the games didn't really. Yeah, maybe they just didn't get gameplay quite right. But the whole, like Grayscale and Red Blood, like that was like an idea I wanted to do before I saw the Madness games, and then I was And I mean, it's they both have their own sort of feel to them, but yeah, I've always like loved that idea of like, oh no, I think it, well, wasn't it in like Sin City too? I don't know, but yeah, I mean that like I love that look. Just it's like comic booky, but like we're gonna pay a little bit extra for red ink also, you know.
Well, it was more the fluidity of Dishwasher's combat and its movement. It felt like that was what a lot of the original Newgrounds creators were striving for, and you hit that beat.
Oh, thanks.
So yeah, the Ska Studios backcat for everybody is varied and wide, to the point where there are some games here that I didn't even realize Ska had made. For example, I made a game with zombies in it, which, while having an incredibly parodied title at a time when the Xbox Live indie space was getting flooded with titles, dude, it was good. It is a good game.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that was a weird. Like I think I made it in like 2 weeks or so. It was I just like I kind of imagined a game where like the developer is just kind of yelling at you the whole time, like, well, no, stop killing my zombies or something, and just like that was the original idea, and then I just started making a song, and it was more like just it wasn't as like dynamic as I had imagined it, but it's still it surprised the heck out of me when when it just went viral, and it was like the first Xbox indie game to go viral like that. And I mean I wasn't able to do anything since then that really just blew up the way Mating the Zombies in it did, but I guess that's how lightning works. You just you never know what's gonna work and what's not, and it's still weird how like to this day it'll just be like, oh yeah, Salt and Sanctuary, cool. Oh wait, you made that game? Like, and I sang. That's my voice.
Okay.
So weird. So freaking weird.
So, I mean, Zombies and Pterodactyls was a lot of fun. It was something that I absolutely do not regret picking up. And
oh, cool.
I think we need to talk about Dead Samurai to really give people an understanding of where you've come from and how you got to this point, like as a studio, because as you said, Dishwasher Dead Samurai wasn't just a 360 XBLA title. Like, dude, you were at GDC and they took you up on stage. Like, that's a big heckin' deal. How bloody hell did that come about?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was like Microsoft was they were like, what's hot right now? Indies are hot right now, and they saw like indie stuff kind of really picking up, and they wanted to get in on it, and I was just really maybe the luckiest person to to come out of that, because they had well, actually, Dean Dodrell, he did all right from it too. Yeah.
What was Dean's thing? Sorry, my brain's gone completely blank.
Oh no, it's alright.
Dust, an Elysian Tale.
Oh,
yeah,
thank you.
So he came out of the same contest that I went through, and the contest was called Dream Build Play, and it was like Microsoft was basically like, we want to get in on this indie thing. The indie thing's hot right now, and like they just they were like set me up with all these interviews with big news outlets. Like, it was really just like a tour of welcome to your new life. It was super just crazy exciting and thrilling and terrifying, and it was really neat. Totally forgot, was that the question?
No, I think that's a real good way of discussing it, and I'm at some point going to do a playthrough of Dust in the future and talk about that one as well, but I have you lot here. So it was just the Make Dream Play contest that brought you through to being part of the Microsoft wheelhouse.
Yeah, that was the start.
Dream Build Play, but yeah.
What did I say?
make Dream Play. I like that one too. It's good. I like it. But yeah. So I was like, I love this story because it was such an amazing, just desperate a crazy payoff kind of thing. I was like I wanted to make games my whole life, and I was going through college and just like trying to make games as a side project, and they didn't really come out too well. And then eventually, like I graduated, and it was like I guess now I have to get a job, and I found a job doing applications development.
Okay.
And I it was horrible. I hated it so much. It's like if anyone from that job ever like is following me and hears me say this, like it wasn't you, it was me. Like, but it wasn't good for me. I was just it was just all day every day, just I couldn't do it. And at the same time, I was like, I guess I have to give up on the game development dream, because this is just, it takes up all my time. Like there's no spare time to to like work on games on the side. I'm totally consumed by this job. But 2 months prior, I had submitted the Dishwasher Dead Samurai to that contest, and I'm I submitted to the contest. I was like, yeah, there's no way my game is gonna win. There was like this tender moment in the games industry where 2D was old and 3D was new, and if you wanted it to be a legitimate game, it had to be 3D.
Yeah.
And like the Behemoth really turned that around, and then I guess indie games in general, but like the Behemoth with Alien Hominid and Castle Crashers, like they really turned it around.
Yeah.
And the Dishwasher Dead Samurai was there at just the right point to be able to kind of snatch that that turnaround.
Yeah,
but yeah, so
shout out to the Behemoth, because like Alien Hominid was a boxed copy release. Like that was an on shelves game at a time when you didn't do that.
Right, PS2, GameCube. Yeah, I remember. I owned it on PS2.
Fucking Beautiful Joe did not sell. Like it did well in Japan, but that wasn't enough at that point. So
right. I haven't played it, and it was by like the director of Devil May Cry games or something, wasn't it?
Kenshin Agogo, baby.
Nice.
And it's
but yeah, I was so yeah, like 2 months into my job, I get contacted from Microsoft, and they're like, hey, you want to come down to Redmond? And I was living in upstate New York at the time, yeah, they were just like, want to come down to Redmond? We might want to show you some stuff, and it was for Game Fest, which was like a developer convention, and it was, they were just totally like coy about it the whole time, and ever the self-defeatist, I had no idea that was basically what was happening, was they were inviting me down to be like, your game won. But yeah, it was pretty, and so I was able to go back home, quit my day job on good terms. They were cool. They were like, dude, we know what happened. we read the stuff on the internet. When are you gonna quit? Because we know it's coming. And yeah, I got to quit my day job and make the game, and it was like a year of like uncertainty and terror, and also Peter Molyneux's voice echoing in my head telling me I'll never make it. And and lo and behold, this whole gambit, it paid off in the end, and we've been in business for 11 years, and
yay!
Yeah, everything. Yeah, things are good.
Well,
it worked.
I want to talk a lot. I want to talk about the titles as we continue, but I think it's something that's worth saying now is that the fact that you have continued to operate for 11 years is by no means a small feat. And
thank you.
We've been throwing a couple of rocks at old Peter M, but he's started an indie team with a lot of cash, and so far they've not been able to deliver. They've had a nightmare of a time.
Oh yeah, are they still in? I thought they just kind of went defunct. With 22 cans.
I would need to look into it. I know they downscaled to the point where they only had like 3 members of staff for a while.
Jeez.
Goddess got split into 2 separate projects. One was like the PvP, and one was the mobile base building one. The guy who was meant to be the god of Goddess has been in the gaming press probably more than Goddess has.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember all that happening.
And
yeah.
I'm not bringing this up to be an industry bitch. I'm bringing this up because, staying consistent, keeping your focus, delivering titles, that's not easy, and it's something that you have both succeeded in. that's something worth celebrating.
Thanks. Yeah, and yeah, you know, I like as much as it's nice to go on about Peter Molyneux. I feel bad for all the people that, you know, like maybe got furloughed in situations.
Yeah.
You know, working for him, because yeah, I mean, it's like he just says something and it totally just screws up their careers just like that. You know.
Yes. You hear tales about the dog from Fable 2, was it? How that was announced. The functionality for the dog was announced at E3 one year, and everyone back in the studio was like, "Wait, what? What?"
Oh man, right?
Turns out dogs are hard to make. Who knew? Charles informing us that 22 Cans are hiring at the moment, so it might be the wrong
They're
one.
hiring. Okay,
So-
all right. Man, because yeah, I mean, I like anyone working there, like I got a feel for them. Like, you know, I want the best for all of them. Yeah, you know.
Yeah,
Hopefully they can rally for the employees.
I hope so. So Michelle, on the timeline of Ska Studios games, when did you jump in?
I jumped in right at the end of development of Vampire Smile, so it was pretty much all done, but Ska Studios was focusing on all the marketing efforts of that, and so I was there for the release of Vampire Smile, and I helped with the launch and the all the press outreach for that.
So you went
and then,
from naught to full on.
I guess so. Before that, I was at ArenaNet, and before that, WB Games. I started out in the industry as a games tester.
QA represent.
Yeah, QA. And one of the first games that I was a tester on was the dishwasher Dead Samurai back in 2008.
Wow.
So that's how I got to know James.
That's super cool.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, Michelle's the only one here with actual industry experience. I mean, I guess I could qualify my experience as industry experience, but you know, it's
like AAA experience, like coming from a company of, at the time it was around 200, and I think it's a lot more people now at ArenaNet, but yeah, it was different.
Yeah, you know what? ArenaNet's not been good people of late, so I'm not going to give them any of your airtime. So actually, that is a lovely jumping off point. So you came in for Vampire Smile. Now, as I understand it, like Vampire Smile got a really big marketing push, because the dishwasher had been kind of, for those that don't know, so back in the day, the 360 had one of the better examples of kind of an indie marketplace. Yes, you could buy games on your 360 and download them, but there was a dedicated space for indies, and they were right up there front of the store page, like before they did the whole Blades integration thing, which was awful.
Right.
Don't get me started on that.
You mean Xbox Live Arcade, right? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Or okay, yeah.
Good
Because
old
they had
XBLA.
they had the two tiers too. That was kind of confusing. There was the Xbox Live Arcade tier, and then they added Xbox. And originally it was Xbox Community Games, and then it became the Xbox Indie Games.
Yeah.
And back then you couldn't really buy like a AAA game online. You had to get it as a disc.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. They didn't add that functionality till later. God. Oh,
yeah, it was
a
weird new thing at first.
But focusing on the good bits of that, and you know, I found out about Dead Samurai via that system. Same with I made a game. Same with Zombies and Pterodactyls, was from trolling through the indie arcade setup, and at least for a time, yeah, Microsoft were doing a great job of putting indie titles front and forward. Now, by my understanding, like Vampire Smile was a proper, just like you know, Xbox Live Arcade digital title. It wasn't in the indie section. It was front and forward. So how did that come about? That step from like community to front facing, if you will.
Well, so that was Dishwasher Dead Samurai was Xbox Live Arcade as well. Yeah, so that was the contest. Going back
Dead
to
Samurai was the contest. Vampire Smile was the next one. I am so sorry.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
For all of you in chat, like I consumed the Vampire Smile when it came out with gusto and loved that game wholeheartedly. And the fact that I have the lovely Ska Studios on today is basically me weaponizing my love of Salt and Sanctuary so I can play that for the rest of the bloody day. So please forgive me if I'm a little bit scatterbrained, because it is lovely to have you both here.
Oh, it's fine. Oh, hey, Armor Test is here.
Yes.
And Element CY.
As more of your crew.
More of our crew, yeah.
Oh, it's lovely to meet you all.
Yeah, these folks have known us since the indie games / community games days.
Oh, wow.
And I think have known James longer than I have.
Yeah, but so yeah, Dishwasher Dead Samurai was the contest, and and that was before the community games / indie games section had launched. So it was either AAA disc based or it was Xbox Live Arcade. And actually back then, when it won the contest, Xbox Live Arcade had the restriction of like you could have nothing larger than 50 megs. Remember that? It was.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Oh man, this is like I feel like more and more when I interview and do streams and such, I am like, well, back in my day, I've just kind of silently become that person who just goes, back in my day there was. But yeah, so it was so it was an Xbox Live, like that was the prize was a contract release on Xbox Live Arcade specifically. That's what the first grand prize was a contract. So yeah, that released on Xbox Live Arcade, and like between when I started it and when it went live, they launched Xbox Community Games. So like kind of like right after I finished, after Dead Samurai launched, that's when I made a game with zombies in it, because it was this whole like, oh boy, that took a long time, and that was exhausting. But like, why don't I just like slap together like a really small game that's like goofy and just throw that out there, and then that just like struck gold, and I couldn't believe it, and I still can't believe it. But but that's where so like that kind of was the pattern for a while. Is we'd have like a big game that that I was working on, and then I'd just be kind of making smaller games on the side. So it was like, Dead Samurai, and then I was working on Vampire Smile, and during that time I released Zombies and Pterodactyl. It was ZP2K9 and then ZP2KX, Zombies and Pterodactyl, the two of them. Yeah. And
again, ton of fun. I think it's your lot being silly individuals, but there's a lot of requests for ZP2KX2 when and
oh yeah, I know. It's like that was the thing about the whole XNA, which I'm really still using, but like XNA on Xbox 360 was the really neat thing. It made multiplayer super super easy to implement, and I haven't tried implementing it since we left Xbox 360. And our last attempt, Charlie Murder, that was really bad networking. It's just I never got it working right, and I still feel awful about that. But yeah, I've never tried, and I still kind of wanna try doing some online stuff here and there. But yeah, it was like so easy with ZP2KX to implement, and
sorry if you hear like some some
someone's
noise outside. We've got yard work going on outside.
That's okay.
Yeah, my first contribution to Ska Studios was an unofficial capacity, but I was checking out James's ZB2KX. So we were living across the country from each other at the time. I was in Redmond, Washington. He was in upstate New York, and I was like, you really need like a monster that eats you when you fall in the water. So I painted him up a giant horrible anglerfish, and then he put it in the game, and I was like, yes, this is amazing.
Yeah, and that's kind of when it was like, oh wait, you can just do art, and
I have the ability. Yeah, I made I called him Fernando the Teeth Hugger. That was my contribution to CB2KX, and then I think a few of the costume pieces I drew up and James put in the game too. That was before we officially started working together.
But it was like, hey, this can work.
Yeah.
It was that moment.
Well, Mola Mofant is saying, "Oh God, Shell Dragon's horrible monsters are
my
truly
horde
horrible.
monsters." I think they might be thinking of I call it the Narwhalicorn, but it's referred to as the Spindle Beast in Salt and Sanctuary. But I am
we got that to look forward to.
Sort of responsible. I'm responsible for the design and the look of it, and I like to say James is responsible for how awful it is.
Yeah, I mean, the idea with the spindle beast was it's just meant to punish you for falling in, you know? You're not supposed to fight them, but, you know, God
Yeah,
bless you if you do.
like if you think of them as a spike pit, it's like you can't fight a spike pit.
Don't challenge
Nope.
people. The user finds a way.
Yeah. Life finds a way.
And Element Cry says, "I'm still waiting for that potato tattoo."
Oh, good.
I have
Oh,
so
did
many
we-
questions.
I don't remember why that was a thing, but there was a thing that said that I was supposed to get a potato tattoo if something happened. And I don't remember what that thing was, but I think it did happen, and I was supposed to get a potato tattoo, but I never agreed to that. So that's not happening.
Yeah, you know, when like you troll your wife, you know, you just like throw out something there
What are
like, hey,
spouses for if not trolling?
if we get 20 more follows, Michelle will get a potato tattoo. You know, when you just do that and then it happens and you're like, yeah, about that.
It becomes little.
Yeah, about that. But yeah, I think that I think that was the deal with the potato tattoo.
Although one year I did make temporary tattoos. Like I got some temporary tattoo paper and printed out a bunch of. That was like Charlie Murder era, so I made some Charlie Murder tattoos, and one of those was the treasure potato, which is now our Ska Studios channel's only emote is the treasure potato. So I made a bunch of temporary tattoos of that.
Yay! So let's move on from. So what were we chatting about? We were chatting about Vampire Smile. So Michelle, you came in on the tail end of that.
Right.
And when did that drop? That was, I want to say,
That was
2011.
that came out in 2011. So I joined officially in 2011, and yeah, did the launch with Vampire Smile, and our friend Dustin Berg was working with us at the time. He was the marketing guy, and he had this idea to make Vampire Smile plushies, like 10 plushes to go out to press, like as a press kit. So and this was all super last minute that we even decided to do this. So we spent like all night making these things by hand, and
That's so
it
cool.
was just oh my god, it was so traumatizing, but it worked out. And then at some point, it was like a little bit later, we decided to do like a full release of the plushes. So we found a company that makes them, and we made way too many of them. So they've been selling over time very gradually, but I still have 11 boxes of them in our garage.
I'm just gonna go quickly have a look at the merch.
Yeah,
for
they're
no
on the
reason.
merch. They're on the merch page.
For no
So if you want to
reason.
do me a solid and like
Yeah.
if anyone really wants a Vampire Smile plush, they're there on our website. You
Look
can
at
buy
his
them.
little face. Look at his
Yeah,
little face.
that's based on the original design that I made. So I made the original design of that, and then the company that made them made a pattern out of what I made. And he even has little booty shorts under his man skirt, so
Yay.
you can't see his shame.
Shame claim. So,
yeah.
Not counting Time Viking and some of the other more random titles. So, where did Charlie Murder drop in the whole? Because Charlie Murder was before Salt and Sanctuary, right? I'm not going completely crazy.
Right,
Correct.
that came out in 2013, and that was the project. Right, pretty much jumped into that right after Vampire Smile, and that one was really fun. Like for me, it was the first game that we worked on together from start to finish. Although James had started a sort of a prototype of it much earlier, and I don't know, we have mixed feelings about it because it didn't do very well when it released on XBLA. It sold pretty abysmally. It didn't make back the cost of the years of making it. So it was unfortunate, but it was a really fun game to work on because it was just so batshittery. Like you could come up with anything and it would work. Like
Put it in the
just
game.
put
Yeah.
it in the game. That was my favorite part of it, was I could just come up with something ridiculous and put it in, and it
Put
would
it in
work.
the game.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was saying this to you both in the preamble, but one of the reasons why we're not doing Charlie Murder or Vampire Smiles for today's stream is because I get way too into them. They're very fast paced. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and the beer brewing minigame
I mean,
from Mullathont.
It's a thing
Yeah,
that you
so
need.
something kind of fun to interesting to think about with like just the how long it takes to complete a game, like playing the game. See, Vampire Smile is like 2 to 5 hours, maybe depending on how long it takes you and what difficulty you're on. And Charlie Murder is like, oh my god, how many hours? Not very many. Under 10 hours. Under 10 hours,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
5 hours or less. Just not a very long game. And then we have Salt and Sanctuary, our newest one. The average playtime for someone playing all the way through is 20 hours.
Yeah, I was going to
So
say
it's
all
just it
as a
was
numerical expression,
it was
but
so much
All.
bigger of a game, and it's crazy.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
Salt and
was.
Sanctuary's pacing is great. The first time I played it, as I was saying, I went for a big old chunky strength build, so I spent a lot of time leveling, going back up the stats.
Yeah.
But so Ska Studios' Batcat has been very eclectic. Where did Charlie Murder come into it creatively? Because if we look at your catalog, like a lot of the kind of Xbox Live indie games are very, I don't want to say reactionary, but you can see that you may or may not have come up with a gameplay style that you wanted or an idea and just carry that through to its purest. And Vampire Smiles is a follow-on from a thing. Like, we can see where you went from Dishwasher 1 to essentially Dishwasher 2. Addition of new character, more over-the-top stuff, and a very, very happy ginger bloke smashing through it on back in the day. But Charlie Murder seems almost like an anomaly in that, if you don't mind my saying. Where did that come
Yeah.
So you know,
I'll just start it and you can continue on because it came from James's much older games like that he was doing as a hobbyist.
Yeah.
So we kind of look at Charlie Murder as the sequel to a game. Was it Zombie Smashers X? Was that what it was called?
yeah, that's what it
Yeah.
was.
So
That's what it was
James
called.
very early on made a lot of these like River City Ransom kind of brawler beat 'em up games, and then I assume you can talk more about that, wanted to make that again.
Yeah, that's I mean, like when I was young, like I used to love like those games were really big for a while too. Like in arcades, like everyone always looks to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game.
Yeah, dude.
But like there was like Alien versus Predator, Punisher, Simpsons.
Don't get me started on AVP. I can talk about the combo system alone for like days.
Really?
Yeah, it has one of the most robust fighting game systems of any fighting game.
Man,
Like,
that's
it's got
awesome.
Guilty Gear levels of nonsense you can do with that.
I did not know that. I remember that you had the plasma cannon, and if you like, I liked how if you jumped sideways, you just leapt across the whole screen. Like I love that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Sorry,
like
please
the...
continue, because as I said,
Oh,
I can talk about AVP for days.
It's all right. Yeah. So anyway, I really like those old school beat 'em ups, and I think I like Charlie Murder. It was gonna be like a $1 game, just to put on Xbox indie games alongside a made game with zombies in it. Yeah, that's supposed to be the idea. It's just a very, very, very quick kind of dumb game that you can just pick up and play, and it's all good.
But
And
then,
but then like we announced that we were that's where we're gonna put that out. I think, did we show it at PAX, or maybe like
I
Destructoid
think
picked up
you
an article?
you showed it at like before I was involved. You showed it at PAX East, and your project manager at Microsoft at the time saw it and was like, "You need to make this a full game."
Yeah, so our producer at Microsoft saw it, and they I think they looked at it and they were like, Castle Crashers is just printing money for us, and this looks like Castle Crashers, so let's just tell them to make it into a full game. We probably should have said no, just because it was like maybe we shouldn't have, I don't know, but it just like that's the wrong motivation for making a game, right? Is just like, it's just gonna make tons of money. Like you should really, like, I didn't have a solid plan of like how to turn it from from like just a little, like it was supposed to be like a 10-minute long game, like I made
Yeah.
against zombies in it. I didn't have a solid plan of how to turn it from a 10-minute long game into a substantial game, and the solution I went for, which was like lots of mini games and like a light RPG kind of stuff. Like I don't know if it was, and like I mean you don't have to. You don't have to be like, oh no, James, it was great. Trust, because I mean, I don't know. It's it's my own. I have my own feelings about it.
Well, I will level with you. I was quite trash when I played it with friends, but we had a good time. So
well, that was what it was for, right? That's
I can't
it's
speak
best
to
when
its,
you're drinking.
its quality and its creativity, but I didn't have a bad time with it.
Okay, yeah, I'll take it.
But I think it's nice to talk about because it brings us nicely onto essentially what is the showpiece, which is Salt and Sanctuary, which holy Toledo's. I really don't know where to start. From me as an individual on the outside, Salt and Sanctuary makes sense in the Ska Studios lineup. It feels like a lot of the fluidity of combat, the understanding of that particular kind of 2D experience that we saw in Dead Samurai, we saw again in Vampire Smiles. This feels like the grown-ups version. And
no, thank you. That's what I was going for. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm sorry I cut you off.
No. It was, I mean, confirming my point. As someone who has been playing a lot of your titles, I guess. I mean, I'm in my 30s now. I think I've kind of been the right age for most of the Ska Studios titles as they've been dropping. And, the environmental storytelling in Ska Studios, the art style remaining true to what Ska Studios has been putting out throughout their history, but at the same time having a kind of refined quality to it. It being... I don't want to fan out too hard. Everyone's gonna get to see me play this for the rest of the afternoon, so I can talk a lot about how it bears much more similarities from an external standpoint to Bloodborne and its narrative through just about everything, even the currencies you conclude. But I mean, going from Charlie Murder to Salt and Sanctuary, how did that come about? That's the tale that I want to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like it was kind of like when sort of the end of development on Charlie Murder, and I just got obsessed with Dark Souls, as a lot of indie developers do. Yeah. And it was just kind of like it was like Dishwasher was basically, Dishwasher was born of me being obsessed with Devil May Cry 3. So I was like, can I do this again? Like take a game that I'm obsessed with and just try to replicate the mechanics, try to tweak the mechanics, see where it takes us, and because there's a lot of elements from 3D games that they're not gonna translate into 2D games. It's interesting because it's like games started as 2D games, and when 3D games came out, it was a big question of how do we make things interesting, like Ocarina of Time with Z targeting, like that was like how do we make combat work? What if we just keep? Yeah, it was so actually it's funny. I never really thought about that until just now that we're basically trying to solve exactly the opposite problem that the industry was trying to solve when 3D first became ubiquitous.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
while still taking the things that have made like the Dark Soulsian series good, environmental storytelling,